This video is to help you get this worksheet started. We've got the graph analysis worksheet. Hold on, I'm just going to see if I can expand it. It doesn't let me, but that's okay. So don't forget to put your name up here. And how do I write on this thing again? I think I hit draw. Let's go the red. I like the blue pen. And can we get this? We're good. Okay. So I can draw now. So what we're going to do is we're going to answer or fill in this table here. So you should have seen the video on independent versus dependent variables, scientific method, or you should have been in class and got that information. So if you haven't gotten that information, go there, then come back. Now, when we run an experiment, what we like to do is we always like to change one variable, that's the independent variable, and see how something else responds to it. Now the thing about running experiments is that there's always a lot of variables that can affect our dependent variable. There's a lot of things that go into test scores that can improve them or decrease them. A good night's sleep, poor diet, good diet, having a good day, a bad day. So when we run this experiment, we want to know, how does studying affect our test scores? We want this to be the only variable that affects test scores. So that means we got to hold everything else constant. And that can be really, really tricky. So in this case, you'd probably have two large groups of people, because then you at least get some averages out, because a lot of those variables, you kind of just have to average them out. But let's come up with three constants. So 1, 2, and 3. Three things. If we have two large groups of people, we want one group to study for 0 minutes and the other group to study for 60 minutes every night. And we want to know which group has higher test scores. We probably want to make sure that the gender mix is the same. So we can say gender. Sorry, writing is pretty bad here. About an even number of men and women in each group. We want to make sure that they're getting the same sleep each night. Maybe you'd even want to tell each group, you need to go to bed at this time and wake up at this time each day for a week leading up to the test, so that I know that you're all getting the same sleep habits. So the sleep habits are not affecting the test scores. Also, you may want to have them being taught by the same teacher. Those would be three variables, and there's many, many more variables that you'd want to make sure both groups of students they have the same exact conditions before the test. The only thing that's different between the two groups is the amount of time studied. So those would be three constants for this case. The control, when we run an experiment, we want to know if our variable makes things better or worse usually. Does taking this medicine better or worse than not taking the medicine? So in this case, we wanted our control would probably be 0 minutes studying. 0 minutes studying, right? So if I just ran an experiment with one group, said all of you study for 60 minutes and then take a test, excuse me, take a test, and they score really well. Well, I don't know if they scored well because the test was super easy or if they scored well because they studied. That's why I would want to have a baseline measurement of another group that doesn't study at all. If both groups score equally high, well then studying might not have actually helped. If both groups score low, studying probably doesn't help. But if the 0 minute studying does significantly worse than the group that did study, then I can say the studying helps. I can't say the studying is good unless I compare it to a group that doesn't study. Now, to describe the experiment, what I'm going to have you do is basically say the dependent variable as a function of the independent variable. So let's go over that. So the dependent variable, test scores as a function of the amount of time studied. Sorry, this pen is just not working good today. Test scores as a function of the amount of time studying. So that would be the first one. I will let you answer the rest. Do your best. This is a trickier assignment, so put something down, give it your best shot, and we'll discuss it in class if we get the time. Now describe the experiment. So this is the bottom half. You're given the description here. So it's the dependent variable, lifespan. I know that's one word, but I'll split it up there. As a function of physical activity. Physical activity. So the independent variable, so like I said, it's the dependent variable as a function of the independent variable. Now, in this particular case, again, this is kind of tricky. If I had two people and I told one person to exercise and one person to not exercise, there's a lot of other variables that I'd want to hold constant or there's a lot of other variables that could affect the lifespan. So it's hard to hold those constant. So again, what I'd probably do in this experiment, have 1,000 people that I say, I want you to exercise. And the other group, 1,000 people, don't exercise. And again, that isn't really an ethical experiment. What you'd probably have to do is survey people and then see how long they live and compare their physical activity to lifespan. But if I wanted to run this experiment, and let's say we don't have to worry about ethics, I have all the money in the world, I have 1,000 people, you exercise an hour a day, and 1,000 people, you don't exercise at all. My control would be the group that has 0 exercise. How long do you live if you don't exercise ever? And then we can say, does exercising make you live longer or less, or shorter than that? And then between the two groups, I would probably want to make sure they're eating the same thing. One group lives off of pop and chips, and the other group eats their fruits and vegetables. That's going to make a big difference. So I want their diet to be the same. I'd also want, again, sleep. They have about the same sleep habits. You could even put occupation on there. You wouldn't want one group to all be skydivers and the other group to be teachers. Teachers have much less of an occupational hazard than skydivers do. So that could definitely affect lifespan. And then at the end, we'd say, okay, what was the average lifespan of this group? What was the average lifespan of that group? Who lives longer? Does physical activity actually make your life longer? So that would be the whole purpose of this experiment. So again, do your best on this worksheet. Try to get creative with constants. Try to envision trying to make a good experiment out of these descriptions, or as it is on top, the variables that you're given. On the back are practice ACT questions. We will go over those in class, but I want you to read through that and try to answer those as best you can as well, because we're going to prepare you for the ACT this year. So that, again, give your best shot. Ask for help the next day when I see you next. And that's it.